Today I'm going to show you exactly how we perform our 172-point certified inspection here at Mike's Car Store. All right, so the very first thing that our mechanic does is come to our internal app that tells us if there's anything going on. So you can see there's a lot of steps here. So they're basically coming down to the certified inspection, and what they'll do is they'll hit this in progress and they'll look to see if there's anything different in here. So these are all standard stuff on every single one of them. Our inspections, reporting findings to me personally, change the oil, put the oil change sticker in. We do 5 months, 5,000 miles. We do synthetic oil, replace cabin air filter and the engine air filter. And one of our steps in this is our walk around inspection, and that does quite a bit of things. So first of all, we just do a visual inspection of it. This particular car was a trade-in, but say we bought it off the street and we had to have it shipped in, or we bought it at auction, or whatever the case may be. We do that visual inspection, and then our salesman Grant goes out and drives it about 17 miles to ensure there's nothing issues on that. Grant's been in the business for over 25 years. It's the only thing he's done his entire life. His dad was in the business, so a vast world of knowledge that Grant has. And then when you team me with this, the camaraderie and bouncing things off of people to ensure each other, to ensure that we're doing the right things, is so important. So so he does that, and then he'll report any findings in that certified inspection of, hey, there's a squeak here, air noise here, or brakes are bad, or whatever the case may be. So he does that 17-mile test drive, and so as you saw, there was nothing to report there. So in a nutshell, we just start our inspection in this particular instance. And back here we have like a little checklist to do for our technician to inspect the vehicles, and this is the way we do it every single time. And the reason why we do it every single time like this is because it all becomes a habit, and there's like nothing, oh, we forgot that, or I skipped that. It's verbatim what it is. So we just did this, so now the technician is required to test drive the vehicle. Even though Grant has test drove the vehicle, he has to test drive the vehicle again as well, for the simple fact that the more eyes on our cars and the more ears on our cars and the more people that are touching our cars ensures that we don't have issues. So then he scans for codes. We scan for every code. They get emailed to me directly, and then we do all sorts of stuff here and report findings to me as well. So all of this stuff is our 172-point inspection. And out here is where our technician finds everything out there. So in this particular case, the RDX has got a 3.5 liter Honda V6 engine. It's 97,000 miles, so this is most likely going to get a water pump and timing belt kit put on it because it's due every 100,000 miles. So we do that as a service for all of our customers. So we got the oil filter, we got the air filter, we got the cabin air filter, we have the oil change sticker, and then this right here is the inspection. And because we're doing water pump, we always get 2 gallons of Asian coolant for that service as well. All right, so this is my personal toolbox here, and I let my technician use this. And so right here is our 172-point inspection. So it's 3 pages long. That's the 3rd page there, and there's the 2nd page. So you can see it's very, very intuitive. And in a nutshell, the comment section here is what I want them to write down if they find anything. Squeaks, rattles, hey, we need brakes, you know, whatever the case may be. So one of the requirements that I'll show you here in a second is looking at each individual tire for tire depth, for brake depth, and for air pressure as well. So every one of these boxes need to be checked off. All of the stuff is very intuitive, and some of it is a little bit redundant, but again, I think it's very important to have multiple eyes and multiple looks at certain things, so that way we are creating a quality used vehicle. All right, so here's the vehicle we're doing the inspection on, and you can see it's kind of dirty. When you see the inside, it's going to be dirty. This is a fresh trade-in. So generally speaking, what we're looking for when we're walking around is we can visually look at tires and know, oh yeah, those tires are good. We still have to write down the tread depth on our inspection report, but some of the things that I teach the guys to look at is, especially like on imports, because we sell so many Hondas and Toyotas, is looking at the license plate screws here to ensure that the bolts aren't broken off, because that's very common. We're looking at anything visual on the car. We're selling used cars, so there's not gonna be a perfect thing. So like I just saw this right here, a little scuff. That that might be able to be touched up. It's too deep to buff on at the detail shop, but you know, we can at least get some of that grayness off or that whiteness off right there from the clear coat at the detail shop, and we can let them know. So we just kind of look at it. We look for like any major dents and dings, and you know, if there's body parts misaligned, stuff like that. We always kind of look at the mirrors and see if they're beat up, see how that one's got a little scratch on it. That'll probably buff off with no problem. But again, it's just a visual inspection, and we just do that on the exterior. We look at the windshield right here as well, look for any chips and cracks. This is kind of, again, part of the visual inspection that I teach. And then the next thing we do is we hop in the car. As you can see, it is dirty because it is a fresh trade-in that has not went through detail yet. And we just kind of look through here. So the next thing that I have them do is start the car, and we just listen. We're listening for any goofiness starting up of the engine, anything like that. Obviously, one of the biggest things is they turn the radio down. They're not taking a joyride to listen to music or anything like that. There's a purpose to this. So we make sure everything is working as operating as intended. And we can check the mileage at 98,008 miles. So one of the things that I like to do, since this is cold, let it run for 10-15 seconds. Put it in gear. We got a nice smooth transition to reverse. Put it in drive. No issues there. I'm listening again. Two stuff. And the reason we want to do this, because this is going to be like giving us engine mount issues and stuff like that. So now we get to take it on our 17 mile test drive. I'm going to reset number A back to 0 so you can see how far we actually test drive them. So driving out of the building here, the property, the very first thing I like to do is I like to pull out, put it through the gears, get the RPMs up there, because this is really where you're going to figure some stuff out. And at this point, I like to hit the brakes really good. We're doing about 45 miles an hour. I'll hit the brakes, kind of see how that feels, and then we'll just drive it normal. So we drive it on this road, we drive it on the interstate, we drive it on some back roads, and I'll show you along the way. Okay, now that we're just a couple miles down the road, 2.7 to be exact, I like to get to about this 40 to 50 miles an hour part, jerk the wheel back and forth, get the suspension to operate a little bit, because you're going to hear any clunking noises or sway bar links or stuff like that. And I also will hop up on here to look at the steering. So I let the steering wheel go. You can see this is going to go to the right just a little bit because that's the way the crown of the road goes, but it doesn't immediately pull. You can see no immediate pull, staying straight. So we're checking the alignment here. So some of our check boxes happen based off of our test drive like this, and that's where my mechanic has to memorize this inspection just as much as I have over the years, and we will ensure that this is good. So right up the street here, we're going to hop on the interstate, and while we're doing that, we'll check the cruise control, we'll turn up the volume controls and stuff like that. And at this point, at the end of the video, I'm going to link a couple videos that'll be really good for you, how to test drive a vehicle and also how to inspect the vehicle, because obviously you can't trust every dealer out there that do a good inspection, and those videos are really good to protect your interest when you're buying a new or used vehicle. All right, so now that we are going to be getting up on the interstate, we punch it again one more time. And it's nice that we live in southern Indiana because we do have quite a few hills here. In the back roads, we are going to actually get on some hills, which is going to allow to put some stress on the transmission and stuff like that. And when we're up on the interstate, I instruct my team to always go the speed limit, because we want to do a couple things. It's not for safety so much, so to speak, even though going speed limit is safe. We want to test the functions of the car. So very first and foremost, we're going to turn the cruise control on, and we can see that cruise main, and then we're going to hit the set button, and that's set. So we're going to ensure that the cruise works. But also, when say we have blind spot indicators, which this car actually does right here, I was getting ready to say it does not have blind spot indicators, this allows people to pass us as well. So and with people passing us, that allows us to ensure that these guys work properly. And so as you see, there's going to be a car coming up here on our left, and we'll see right now that that blind spot indicator did come on and function as appropriate. Now, one of the things we do when we get back is we scan for codes, and that's going to pretty much tell us anything, but this is a really good representation. As you can see, somebody else is driving by me, that we are seeing how everything works. So coming in here, we'll also, now is a good time while we're driving, we're going to check like buttons and map buttons. We're going to make sure our navigation is working properly, that it's got us in the right area, all that good stuff, because we do see some navigations not being synced. We make sure if there's touchscreen, that the touchscreen is all working properly while we're test driving the car. We're going to make sure that the heat's working properly, the AC's working properly, the heated seats are working properly, all that good stuff. So I'm going to turn the heated seat on for this one here, so when we get back that we can visually check that as well. So while we're up here on test driving, we're obviously going to check the lights and stuff like that, and the turn signals. We're going to watch the mirrors and all that stuff, and we'll do that when we get back. And we can honk the horn while we're out here too. That's a checkpoint on our inspection as well. All right, we're a little bit down the road, and the next thing I'm going to do, because there is someone behind me, is I'm going to hop over in this left lane. We want to get doing about 80 miles an hour because we're looking for any types of shakes and rattles and creaks and stuff like that. And then we're simply just going to hit the brake lightly. Just like that. We're going to drop 10 miles an hour, and we're going to ensure that there's no brake shudder. This is a good indicator when we're up on these interstate speeds to ensure there's no brake shudder. A lot of times brake shudder can happen throughout the test drive era, and it can happen at 30 miles an hour, it can happen at 60 miles an hour, and we've certainly seen cars that don't have brake shudder until they reach 80 miles an hour. So typically I like to do that again. We can get up to a little bit over 80. We can hit this brake right here, and there you go. You can see there's no shutters. All right, so now we're coming up to the exit on the interstate, and again, this is another great aspect of our inspection process, because it allows us to be at that 75-80 range and hit the brakes as we're coming uphill to the stop sign to turn right here. Again, this is another indicator where we're going to see any brake shudder or any brake goofiness and noises out of the brakes or anything like that. The car's pulling one way, right or left, and of course now you see I can use the turn signal, and the turn signal is going to work as well. So one of the indicators, which I'm going to show you back, or one of the things on the inspection, and I'm going to show you how we do that when we get back there, is we have a way to test all of our lights and all that good stuff there to ensure that they're all working. So we use this road here. Again, it's another good road that we can kind of punch a little bit and ignore that 35 mile an hour sign there and just see how it goes. And then I can hit the brakes real good because nobody's ever on this road, and we can bring the car to an almost near complete stop, if not a complete stop, and then take off from a dead stop again. And this is going to allow us to check the transmission, engine noises, engine mounts, and various other things to ensure that, again, we are inspecting this vehicle and that we are getting a very good quality inspection. So me personally, what I like to do is turn in this cul-de-sac right here that's a few miles behind our area, and we'll hop down here, and I'll use this cul-de-sac. Oh, looks like, oh, nice. Someone's flying their RC plane. Love it, love it. I used to be in the RC planes. And so I come down here, and I like coming in this cul-de-sac because it allows me to do what I like to do, is the figure 8 turn, and I get this steering wheel all the way to the right, all the way to the left, and vice versa, as I just went the opposite way I was saying. And I can get this going on all directions to ensure there are no issues with clunky noises and stuff like that. All right, now that I'm down in that cul-de-sac, it gives me an opportunity to stop, get out of the vehicle, do an inspection under the hood. And what I'm doing typically here is I'm listening for engine noises, which there's nothing here. That tick you hear, that's the direct injection on these vehicles, and they're very loud nowadays, what they used not to be. Also, what I'm doing big time now is checking for smells. Is there any goofy smells? We've been driving this car for about 10 minutes now, and we just want to look for any goofy smells. So I can move around, and I look down in here, and I kind of do a visual inspection just quickly, because we're going to do a more depth visual inspection as soon as we get back to the store and the shop to look at things, but I'm looking at just various things up here just to ensure there's nothing obvious out here. But everything seems to be good. No smells. Checking the radiator cap, no smells here. You got normal heat coming off of there, and everything looks good up here. And typically speaking, if we have a car that's sat overnight, the rotors are going to rust over. It's very common, it's very normal, and nothing odd about that. So I also like to look at the rotors to ensure, since I have been hitting the brakes, to ensure that those are evenly wearing. So if there's a big chunk of rust in the middle of this brake rotor right here, we know there's something going on there as well. So that's one visual that I look at, and then we'll come back here to the middle, or to the back as well, and we can look through that whole thing and see that that is looking good, and we'll check those brake depths on those pads back there. Don't see any crazy grooves in them or anything like that, but we'll check those more in depth when we get back there. All right, so we're continuing on our initial test drive route of our inspection, and as I mentioned earlier in the video, we have quite a few hills here in southern Indiana, which is really, really good. You can see this allows us to put the vehicle under some stress, which is good, especially since we sell a lot of Hondas, and we know that if you get Honda transmission service and you don't put Honda fluid in it, you are going to have some shudder in the transmission, and you're going to find that on the interstate, on these roads, stuff like that. So you can see we got this little itty bitty hill, and then we go down, and then we got a big incline as well that we're going up. So again, this allows us to just get the vehicle in all sorts of goofy driving conditions and get up this and make it go through all the gears of the transmission. And again, this is a really nice, almost like 90-degree turn here, so we get the vehicle going right and left and whatnot, because it comes back to this way as well, as you can see. And one of the things that I want to point out with the figure eights that I was doing back in the cul-de-sac, this is an all-wheel drive vehicle as well. So if there's any goofiness of the all-wheel drive system, we're going to find that out too. And so that's another reason it's so important to do that, is if any of those gears or diffs are doing anything goofy. All right, and here we are coming back to the store, and that would conclude our test drive route. As you can see on the dash here, which is crazy that it's dead on 14 miles on the test drive route that we do. So that's more than most people will ever test drive the car. 14.1, we got 0.1 out of there. So I was saying, that's probably more than most people will test drive a car. So, and I always tell everybody that we do at 19, because our mechanic, which is I'm taking the role of our mechanic today, and Grant also go on this exact same route. So it's more like a 30-mile-per-hour test drive, but we don't want to ever overpromise and underdeliver. We always want to overpromise and overdeliver. So if we tell you that, hey, it's 19, it's most likely 30. But so now we have to go through the fine-tooth comb of this vehicle to ensure everything works, because the test drive went really, really well. No issues, no concerns, nothing crazy out there, no obvious smells. So now we get to do the fun part of the inspection. All right, so here is our inspection. So I never want the mechanic to, at the end of the time that he's inspecting this, to start checking all these off. So a lot of these you have to go off of memory because we do it so often. But we got the road test section. So startup, no issues there. The idle was great. No issues on sound. No service warnings or lights. Acceleration was great. So shift interlock, that's working, just to make sure, even though it wasn't something we physically tested, but hey, we'll make sure. Shifting went great. No manual transmission, and there's no issues with the all-wheel drive, two-wheel drive, four-wheel drive systems. And actually on this one, you could actually say, hey, we don't need it. We'll put a line through it just to do it, because there's no buttons. That's what this is like if there was buttons over here for the four-wheel drive system to check those. But everything worked as designed, so I'm going to put a check mark on there. So I showed you that we did the alignment drift, vibrations, no squeaks or rattles, no obvious wind noise, anti-lock brakes are working fine. I did that off camera since I didn't have to, I didn't want to visually do it with you. Smooth stop. I showed you that going up on the off ramp there. Steering wheel was centered. Ease of turning, no issues. Steering wheel alignment. So HVAC, it's only like 40 degrees, so we can't test that. We'll test it inside, so it's about 75 degrees in there, so we'll test that. The heat works fine. All the fans work fine, and we'll make sure that everything does work fine. So this is where doing this we just kind of look. So yep, everything worked as fine, because we usually have it on auto. So those work fine. Front and rear defrost, those pop up, and those are good. So we'll do that. Air inlet, grill louvers, those are outside during the visual inspections. Recirculate button, that looks good, that works. And then I would say when we talk about climate control here, it's just like, hey, everything seems to work. So I can shut it all off, I can turn it on, I can change modes, which is happening up on the screen in the top left. So that's happening, auto. And if I want to change the temperature and go back to sync, it all works. So I'd say that we're good on that as well. So that's in a nutshell on the road test portion of our inspection. So one of the things that I tell my technicians to do, which is a little out of order of the checklist I showed you earlier on, because it just makes sense over time that sometimes that will change, is to test out the lights and stuff before we get in, because I mirrored out the windows simply so we can do this. So high beams are on, we're going to turn the lights on, turn the high beams on again, so we can see our daytime running lights are working just fine. And then we're going to hit the hazard lights. So the hazard lights work just fine. And then it allows us to turn around. Obviously we can see the backup camera is working just fine, but allows us to also turn the vehicle around, and we can look in our mirrors or whatever the case may be. Is when we look, okay, brake lights are all working, so I can see my reverse lights are working as well. And then I can hit the turn signal, and I can hit the turn signal, and I can see all of that works as well. So there's a quick, easy way to test out all of our lights on the car to ensure that they are working properly, and also it keeps our heating bill down in the building too. All right, so now that we are back from the test drive, I got the vehicle inside the shop here, and the very first thing we do is we scan for trouble codes. Now, you may ask, why do you scan for trouble codes after the drive versus before the drive? Well, we want a full drive cycle out of the car, and a full drive cycle is gonna be about a half an hour of driving, which we've done in this case because I stopped and let the car idle a little bit and so on and so forth. So we get a full scan of every computer on this car. It usually takes about 15 minutes to do so, and then my technician emails this to me, and we look at all the codes. If there's codes, there's always codes on cars, right? So it doesn't matter if it's a brand new car with 2 miles on it or a car with 200,000 miles. We're always going to find codes. So then we have to decipher, are those codes something that's important, or do we just clear them and move on? So we have to determine that as well. So I'm going to scan the codes. All right, as you can see, we use an Alltel tablet to go through everything. And we'll see if the Acura is in here, I'd imagine. Yes, even though it's really a Honda, but we got Acura. And then we just do standalone diagnosis. We tell it go through all that processes. You can see our tablet is all up to date. We don't use out-of-date tablets. We're going to read the VIN. So we want this to be VIN specific every time that we do it, because it's going to see everything. We hit OK, and now it's establishing, and we're in the USA. So a lot of questions. Sometimes there's tons of questions on these things, and it's so confusing. It takes you a little bit of time to figure out what it's asking. Have to look up the vehicle build and stuff like that. So now that we hit diagnosis, we're going to tell it to auto scan, and then we're going to tell it to all system. And then you can see we're going to have probably on this unit, I'd imagine all 100 modules that we're going to scan. And then you see it says execute all DTC tests. So shift to Parker neutral, we're already there, and there you go. So you can see we got a lot of stuff that we're going to scan on here. So 24 separate units, and it's going to take a minute, so we'll let that work. All right, and it looks like we're all done, and while I was doing that, I'm using my time wisely, and I threw it up on the lift so we can start doing the rest of the stuff. So you can see we've only got 2 codes. I'm not sure if it's going to be able to focus on there, but TPMS and blind spot information. So I already looked at these prior to recording, and it's just saying that the tire pressures were low at one point, and it's a permanent fault, so we'll have to clear those out. But before we clear that stuff out, in the same way with the blind spot indicator, it had lost power. Obviously those are working. We hit the save button up here. We report to the cloud, and now that's saved up there. And then this is how my technician emails it to me. We put our stock number in here. We save that, view report, and then we hit the share button up here, and we send this to me. All right, and then we clear all the codes and we come back and we rescan it. And so the blind spot information, you can see that passes with no fault, and the TPMS, I think that's all the way up to the top here. Yep, right there, TPMS, pass, no fault. So we rescan it after that, and we're good to go. All right, now you can see that I've got the hood up and I've got this nice little device on here. We check every battery, we check cold cranking amps, and we check volts. So we do that test to ensure that we don't sell a car with a bad battery. So now that we're doing that, as it was good, it says it's good, it's recharged. We got 12.8 volts and 442 cold cranking amps. Okay, so our battery did 442 cold cranking amps. This is a 685 battery. So we divide that and we see that that is greater than 25% loss. So anything 25% or greater, we replace as a standard operating procedure. So now what I'll do is I'll throw back here on the notes that we need to get a battery for it. So we'll put a new battery in here. So needs battery. 0.64% left of the cold cranking amps, right? So now when they come to me and they're like, hey, this is what it needs, they're giving me the information of how I can make a decision, or hey, let me go back and check on it, or whatever the case may be. So we know right now that this car needs a battery. And a really good indicator that the car needs a battery is our system when it says good recharge, and we just got back from a long test drive, we know there's something going on. And that the fact that I'm doing this in the winter time, this is particular inspection, we're going to find dead batteries more in the winter time than we will any other time. So it's good to know that if we sell a car, that if it's sitting outside or not driven for a couple of days, that you as a customer don't come back or come out to a car with a dead battery when you just bought it. I always think of the biggest issue that I see over time is what happens when you leave this lot. We can control your experience here. We can't control your experience once you leave here, but we have the wherewithal and the knowledge to ensure that we can do the right steps, so that way when you leave here that you don't have any issues. And as of right now of shooting this video, I've been in business for over 3 years and we've not had problems, and we want to keep it that way because buying a car doesn't have to suck. Okay, as you can see, I have went around the entire car with my checklist, and I do have one little faux pas. I called this vehicle an all-wheel drive, and it is not an all-wheel drive. It's a front-wheel drive because when I was doing my inspections, we were missing the rear diff. So, but again, I did this vehicle thinking it was an all-wheel drive because it looks like an all-wheel drive vehicle. I see a lot of these in all-wheel drive, and I'm a Chevy guy, right? I mix these Acuras up with Nissan Muranos all the time. And typically Nissan Muranos are always all-wheel drive, so that was in my head. So as you can see, one of my requirements is we take all the wheels off. We don't just visually look at something and say, hey, it's good. We look at the rotors, make sure they're good. These look like OEM rotors. They definitely have been off, but because those are like brand new brake pads at 10 millimeters, and everything looks good. So we visually look at suspension, we look at all the control arms, we look at the boots, and everything like that. We can see that an STP oil change was done on it, so or STP oil filter was done on it. So we look at everything in here, and we look at everything up there. And then one of the things that I always look at in there, and obviously the biggest things is the engine, transmission, all that good stuff, right? So one of the things that I require my technicians to do is to remove undercarriage panels. So this one we don't have to because we can pretty much see everything in here, okay? So when we're under here, what we're visualizing and what we're looking for is damage. So you can see that these tow recovery hooks, they've never been touched, okay? So that means they've never hit anything on the road, they've never been hooked onto or anything like that. And then I'm gonna come back here, I'm gonna start looking at wires, I'm gonna start looking at the major things like leaks and stuff like that, and you can see that the undercarriage of this thing at 100,000 miles is just clean as can be. There's no issues. So with the carriage, with the shrouds and stuff like that, that all the manufacturers put on here, I can move this enough that I can see everything up there. And again, it looks absolutely amazing. And this is the third time that I'm looking at it with you guys, being the first time. But again, I'm looking at all of the bushings and bolts and everything I possibly can on here to ensure, and you can see that they've been turned because this right here is got marks on it, so it's one way I know that they've been turned, and most likely was done at a Honda or Acura dealership because these are not aftermarket rotors or pads. So it's helpful to know that it's been inspected. Really good. So again, I'm looking up there, I'm looking at the steering rack, I'm looking at axles and everything on here looks good. I'm looking at the bushings and boots and all that stuff looks good there. Looking, all of that stuff looks absolutely great. And the same way with the back as well. So they probably got scammed out of back brakes when they did this, because they probably told them they did it. So I'm looking at springs, I'm looking at suspension, looking at control arms, looking at sway bar links, looking at everything. Ball joints up front, I mentioned I should point that out but didn't say it. But yeah, missing a rear diff back here. So I found out that that was not a rear all-wheel drive vehicle. So I'm looking at the resonator there, muffler up there, muffler back here. We're looking at also like we're going to look at everything up here, ensure that it's not been in an accident before, and make sure there's no frame damage. And then also when I'm coming up front here, I'm looking up underneath as well, so I can see up in here. I can see it, you're not going to see it in camera, but I can see it visually. So I look at frame rails and cross members up here as well, and I look at all bolts, make sure they're there and all that stuff. So you can see I put the wheels back on, but I wanted to tell you too that at that time, when everything's off and I've inspected the entire car, that's when my mechanic will come get me and I will do my own inspection. Now, I made this inspection, I live and breathe this inspection, so I have it memorized in my head, and it doesn't take me very long to inspect a car, but my mechanic's gonna take probably an hour and a half, and at that point in time, when he's came to me or she's came to me and has said, hey, it all looks good, and I've looked at it and verified everything, at that point in time do they start working on the oil change. So as you can see, we have not done the oil change yet, so now the mechanic will do the oil change, put the cabin and air filters in, top off the windshield wiper fluid, any fluids that need to be topped off, we top those off, and then just make sure that everything is bolt back together. And during that inspection, we test everything: tilt and telescoping steering wheel, the power seats on both sides. We look at the, you know, like on this case, oh, I got stuff all over me, nice. But on this case, like spare tire, there's no spare tire in this car, it's an inflator kit. So we check that. So everything is inspected on all of our cars, and that's just a little in-depth detail of everything we do on our cars to ensure that we sell a quality used car. Okay, hey, let me show you why we change air filters. The engine air filter doesn't look too bad. Looks pretty decent. Probably been changed with the last 18 months or so. Now the cabin air filter, look at that thing right there. That's what you breathe. This comes in through the air ventilation, it comes out through the ducts, and this is what traps it. Look at all that junk in there. This is a $13 air filter. We get them from O'Reilly's. You can get them too. It takes 10 seconds to change. It's nothing crazy, but yeah, look at that. That's what the people were breathing who traded this in. So make sure you change your air filters. It's super important. So there's just a little insight on my dealership on how we inspect the used vehicles prior to sale. And the biggest terminology I think that we hear in the car business right now is full transparency. And I think that's a little overused, but for full transparency, I'll back up with what I say. We got 16.7 miles now on the trip odometer. And the reason that is because after I got done doing the inspection and topping off the fluids, I go out and drive it for a couple more miles. What, that's like 2.5, a little over 2.5 miles, just to ensure that there's nothing else goofy going on in the car. Because I took the tires off, we have to put oil in it. Make sure that's all done correctly. It's just our last quality checks and balance before you, a customer, comes in and wants to look at it, test drive it, or take it home with you and consider it yours to drive. So if there's anything we can do here for you at Mike's Car Store, never hesitate to reach out, because you know what? Buying a car doesn't have to suck.